Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom. We got another AP Film Room coming at you. We took a break last week, between the playoffs, Week 18. There wasn't much to break down anyway as it was. We wanted to kind of get in playoff mode first, and we're definitely in it, right, fellas? Chiefs beat the Steelers last week in 42-21. Pretty funny game in terms of, not scoring for the first 25 minutes of game time and then turning it on like they did. But now the playoffs really start, right? Now we got the Bills coming up, and we're going to try to get you guys ready for that Bills matchup. And to start it off, I'm going to throw it to my guy, Talon. We just watched our guys at KU pull off a victory over OU. Talon, how you feeling tonight?
Yeah, doing well, man. It was good to see the Chiefs win the way they did. It kind of, I know they weren't behind, but it kind of reminded me of that Houston game where all of a sudden a flip was switched, and they figured out who they were again. But yeah, it was great to see. I wasn't surprised by the defense, but the offense I figured would have gotten going a little bit quicker and a little bit more efficiently. But hey, W's a W, and I'm happy they got it.
Yeah, no doubt, right? WW in the playoffs, survive in advance. Shout out Jim Valvano, the old survive in advance coach, March Madness again. Talking about KU basketball, or talking about college basketball again. Getting off topic, Bryan, what's up, my friend?
Well, I first off, I just love that comp that Talon drew to the Houston game, because it kind of, like, that statement, I think, is why I'm probably some people might think, if they listen to me talk on this show or throughout the week, like, my confidence level is really high, probably higher than a lot of Chiefs fans. And it's because what we saw, that like switch getting flipped, just, I don't know, it made me feel like, oh, they do still have that in them. And they've gotten to the playoffs now, and the focus is ramped up, the intensity is ramped up. And they still just have that core element where they can just freaking run off and score 5 touchdowns in what was it, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Mahomes broke the record throwing 5 touchdowns in that time. Like, those are the kinds of things, and I'm guilty of it too. We spend every week breaking this stuff down, and it gets kind of monotonous after a while, and you're just ready because you know how good the team is, and you know that the game's coming up, like they're about to have, like, that's where they're going to make or break, their potential. We're not just a fan base hoping to make the playoffs anymore. So, yeah, man, it's good. And game of the year so far coming up. So we're pumped up to show everybody who might be taking some time to watch this, what to expect.
Yeah, no, you're not kidding. This is the game of the year, man. This is what all leads up to for both sides, right? I mean, Bills have a lot of revenge factor, even though they beat us earlier this year. The Bills remember last year's AFC Championship when the Chiefs handled them, right? That wasn't a close game, honestly. Chiefs handled that game. So yeah, it's exciting. And to start it off, we got an exciting player all of a sudden, someone we didn't really see coming, right? I mean, I made the joke on our podcast, Out of Structure. Ask a Chiefs fan a month ago who, who's going to lead the team in the playoffs in total yards in a single game. And the last person they're going to guess is Jerick McKinnon, right? Just because he was injured, just because even when he was healthy, it didn't seem like they were really using him in the offense. Man, did that change on Sunday, Bryan. We're going to just highlight this one play here, but just go ahead and take us through this play and just what you thought about Jerick McKinnon's performance.
So this here is just one play of several. And if you're watching this right now, by the time you're watching, the article that I did this week is probably posted, and it's going to have a whole bunch more of the good stuff that McKinnon did. But so those who follow me on Twitter, like, and I'm not the only one, but I was having, conversations with people saying, this guy needs to play more. After what he did in Denver, that was a situation we hadn't got to see him really work because of injuries and just being buried on the depth chart. But he showed some things that you just watched, and he was different. And he had some skills that were different. And like, I look at him and I do see a lot of Damian Williams and what he does. Even just his physical build. Like, if you put the number 26 on him, I don't know that I could tell you, like, it's not Damian Williams. It's just they're both kind of rocked up the same way and play similarly. But this was probably his best run of the night. he can do all kinds of different run schemes, right? He can do gap, he can do zone, which is what we're looking at here for those watching, like an inside zone look. So, and the offensive line does a great job against a front that we know is very, very talented. But basically, what you need to know is that McKinnon kind of can pick and choose where he wants to go. He can use his lateral quickness, which is second to none to anybody else on the team right now. I do think that Clyde, when he's been healthy, like he can make these kinds of moves. But
yeah,
this year, I don't know. It hasn't been his peak self. And then on top of that, McKinnon shows this burst. The best way I can think to describe it is if the play's blocked up for a 5-yard gain, he can turn it into a 10-yard gain. And that's something that the Chiefs just haven't had from running backs this year, unfortunately. But if there was ever a time to unveil it, I don't know if Andy Reid and his coaching staff, I don't know if they just knew all along and they're just like that ahead of the game at this point. They've been going to Super Bowls. I do think they save a lot of stuff up and with the playbook, and we saw some of that in this game. But it's just crazy the way that it's coming together. And this guy, okay, look at the linebackers for Pittsburgh. Look at the safety and how he just destroys their angles and makes them totally have to shift directions because of how quick he is. Even makes a guy miss kind of squared up right there, right? I can't see the number right.
At the end, yeah.
Like he just does a lot of things really, really well. I do think the Damian Williams stuff is legit. I don't know if they do some things differently, some better than others. But hey, man, if they keep going, if they win Sunday, this guy right here is going to be a big part of that. I guarantee it. So we'll see. It's exciting, though. It's exciting to see at this point.
I know. No, Brian, you're the first one. I got to give you credit. I mean, I'm sure there were other people making the Damian Williams comp after this game, I think. But you were the one saying it before this game. And so I do want to give you credit because as soon as you said it, and it was funny, actually, I saw your tweet as I was rewatching some 2019 playoff games last week. And I was like, man, he is so right. I mean, it really is true. Talon, I don't know. First of all, if you agree with that comparison, if you would kind of like what you're seeing from that perspective, but I want to get your take on the line here and also just McKinnon's path, his path, because I do feel like there might be some holes he maybe passed up a little bit. I don't know. I'm kind of seeing that maybe, but what are you seeing, Talon, or what's your take on McKinnon?
Yeah, man, McKinnon he's electric. And his footwork is what stands out to me. It's so much more intentional than a lot of other running backs you see. There's not a lot of wasted motion with this guy. And he and what's also is so impressive is it seems so instinctual, but yet none of it is out of control, right? Like,
yeah, there
may have been some opportunities there to the right side where if had he picked one of those lanes, a similar result, right? A bigger play, but here he's just kind of going with what his eyes are telling him, and he trusts his body, he trusts his vision, and he trusts his skill set. And this is a great run. I think there's a lot of opportunities here where he could have made a productive play, but what he did is it's fine. It was a great run, and he's making a lot of people miss. And like I said, there's no wasted motion. That's what I love.
Yeah, I think I like that point about like him being in control, right? Because he does. That's the thing. I mean, and you hear, I've heard plenty of people talk about it, just like his speed and his explosion. Just like everyone is saying that it's more noticeably, it's better than the other running backs. But he does it. It's almost like he doesn't look that much faster than them, just like his running style and stuff, because it's so in control, right? He's not just like, super twitched up, super, I guess, elbows chopping, that kind of thing. I mean, he's just in control, but he's moving so much quicker and faster than it seems like the other running backs have this year. So I gotta give you credit on that one, Brian. I don't know. I really didn't see. I saw people making that comparison, like I said, after the game, but not before. And I really think it could turn into a playoff run, kind of like what Damian Williams provided the Chiefs in the 2018 playoffs and the 2019 playoffs. I mean, 2018. I mean, Damian Williams, he didn't play at all most of the year. And then all of a sudden Kareem Hunt obviously goes through his thing. And Damon Williams is thrown in, and it's like he was the starter all year. So,
yeah.
And there is something to maybe the fact that, a guy that hasn't played all year, he's going to be fresh, especially a running back, right? He's going to be fresh in the playoffs, and that's going to be an advantage.
Just a closing thought too on that, Ron. Like, I definitely want him to take the lion's share of the reps. I want him to get the lion's share of the touches. But this is a guy. The reason that he's in this spot to begin with is he has injury history, and so that's where they'll have to find that balance of like still using those other guys, but not overusing them, because he is the one who's going to make the biggest difference with the touches that he does get. So it'll be a balance there. Daryl still does some nice things. Clyde does some nice things. They're just not dynamic. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think it's fairly obvious that Jerick is looking like the best back. But we're not only talking about offense. The defense was really the highlight of the game. I mean, from start to finish. I mean, Talon mentioned it at the top. The defense was just amazing in terms of, and it might have been a little bit of a guy, the guy you're seeing throw the ball right there. Him not being maybe the greatest quarterback, anymore. If not maybe one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Talon, you like this play from Willie. You actually are breaking down the pass rush for us on Arrowhead Pride, or just the front seven from the game. So you've been breaking that on Twitter, but we wanted to pick this play out because, and you'll tell us why, I guess, because Willie's a playmaker, right?
Yeah, Willie's definitely a playmaker, and obviously the lateral quickness and his ranging speed that allows him to cover so much ground from his linebacker position. He's on the hash mark at the beginning of the play, and he's got coverage responsibility on Najee Harris, who is every bit of one of the better athletes in the NFL. And I think he's an underrated athlete. Honestly, I think a lot of people think of him as just his bruising running back when he could pretty much do everything that Christian McCaffrey can do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Willie Gay does a great job here in space. He closes speed. He kind of slow plays it, right? You can kind of see him slide stepping and forcing Najee Harris to make a decision rather than closing too fast and allowing Najee to just make a step and go. And what else sticks out is the rally, right? The rally around the ball. You see Frank Clark closing in. You see Travaris Ward closing in. You see all these, Juan Thornhill's there. Anthony Hitchens. So anyway, obviously the biggest play was the fumble, right? So Najee cuts back inside. Willie swings around and just clubs that ball out from Najee, and then Frank Clark, who starts to play out from his knees after getting chopped. So good hustle play by Frank Clark to be able to be there and then recover the fumble. And this is the first play from scrimmage in the second half. So at this point, the game is 21-7. If the Steelers turn this into a drive and walk away with a touchdown, then the game's 21-14, and it looks a lot different. But instead, it's a fumble, and the Chiefs go on and score and make it 28-7. Now the blowout's on. So this was arguably the biggest play of the game in terms of what it did for momentum and scoring change.
Yeah, no, and it is weird. We've heard, or you've seen the snap counts since this game. Willie wasn't playing as much as he usually is or usually has been this season. He actually only ended up with 17 snaps for some reason, and Bolton played much more than him, which has been kind of the opposite trend. I started to look into the film, and it's weird. Willie is the starting nickel linebacker for the first 3 drives, and then it seems like they transitioned to Bolton, and so I'm not quite sure. But then Gay is the starting linebacker here in nickel, so I just wanted to address that because it does seem to be a narrative that people are talking about. Why didn't Willie play more? And I'm not sure why those numbers bared out the way they did, because it seemed like he started and played and made plays like this. So it was kind of weird how he ended up with a low snap count. But let me ask you this, Bryan. This is how we'll bring you in the conversation. Is Willie the guy you want on the field the most out of all the linebackers? Because I would say so. I think Willie needs to be the guy that sees the most snaps out of any of the guys on the linebacker group. So I think, and this is exactly why, right? This play is a perfect example why he's a playmaker, and he'll make plays like this if you put him on the field, right? Bolton's probably more a sure tackler. I think we can maybe agree with that. But no one's making plays on the ball like Willie is from the linebacker position. Do you agree with that you would have Willie on the field more, or do you like Bolton more on the field than Gay?
I'm putting Willie at number 1 just because his ceiling is his ability to do stuff like we're watching right here. and especially in the passing game. Like we've seen him get his hands on the ball a lot. Like for that reason, he's got to be at the top of the list. As far as this week goes, I've seen a lot of conversation about his snap count, and I'm not trying to get too wrapped up in it because I think, who knows? Like it could have just been as simple as, hey, the team realizes how valuable he is, and they felt like they didn't need him the rest of the, they didn't need him to play 60, 70% of the snaps to win. And because truthfully, guys, without Willie Gay, I don't know if they can go the whole way. I don't know because he makes a big difference. He just, we've talked about it before. He's got skills that the other linebackers don't, and they won't be able to replace it if it's gone. And he has a history with injuries too, right? So I think you'll see this week in Buffalo, or this week against Buffalo, that snap count will straighten itself out. He'll be playing a lot more. And if he's not, and this is like a new thing, then the Chiefs are probably in some trouble. But I like to think that they're, like I said, I like to think it's just a well thought out process, and they're trying to preserve him a little bit, especially since they didn't get the bye week.
Yeah, I think that's fair because Talon, I'll let you talk on this, but he could be a very big part of defending Josh Allen, who is going to scramble, right? He's going to, and even just in the quarterback design run game, which actually we will talk about a little later. I think Willie's a huge part of that Bills game plan. And I just think I don't really. That's why I hope Brian's right. I hope Brian is correct on they just pulled him because. I mean, it can't. I don't know. I like Bolton and I like Hitchens. They've been playing both pretty well lately, in my opinion. But I don't know, Talon. How do you feel like Willie's match fits into like the specific game plan against an offense like the Bills?
Yeah, when you got a guy like Josh Allen who can run and do the things he does as well as he does, you want athletic linebackers like this in space that can kind of corral and account for them and kind of spy. But we saw Nick Bolton kind of do some. Well, I trust Nick Bolton. I should say this. I trust Willie Gay more in space than I do Nick Bolton. I think back to that Jamar Chase run where he kind of put Nick Bolton on skates, but Josh Allen isn't Jamar Chase. So I trust Nick Bolton against Josh Allen in space. I'm not trying to say that, but in terms of Willie Gay and Nick Bolton, I feel like they both do very similar things. Just one does one part of it a lot better than the other and vice versa. I think, but they're closing the gap between each other. I feel like next season, they're not going to be that different of players. I think that's what the coaching staff is trying to do. They're trying to close the gap between Nick Bolton and Willie Gay to where it doesn't matter the situation. They both can be trusted 100% to do what they're doing. So at this point, though, give me Willie Gay in space, give me Willie Gay in coverage, and I think I'm going to trust Willie Gay a little bit more at this point to account for Josh Allen in space.
Yeah, but I think you're on to some, or it's a fair point in terms of kind of maybe leaning towards Bolton when you're talking about a bigger target to tackle, maybe. Willie Gay is still not the biggest guy, right? And that's why he's so quick and athletic. He can still deliver a hit, and we've seen it plenty of times. But no, I do think there's something to think about where, maybe Bolton is more of a better matchup in terms of just tackling Allen because he's able to kind of bring more mass to the tackle and bring a little more momentum to the tackle. So no, it's interesting. And real quick, while I transition to the next play, Talon, just because this was your play, do you think – I don't think the Chiefs really used a spy or have used a spy against Josh Allen. They haven't, I don't think. Do you think that could be a strategy they do where you're taking Gay, he's not rushing the passer, he's not in coverage, he is only, making sure Allen doesn't make a play on them. Do you think that might be a good strategy against the Bills?
Maybe in certain situations. I don't know if Josh Allen, and I haven't seen the numbers, but just based on what I've seen, I don't know if a lot of his runs are from scrambles or if they're from the design part of the playbook. So with a designed running, quarterback, I don't think a spy is going to do a lot for you. You just got to make sure that wherever they're trying to get with the ball, that you're accounted for and you're not outmanned. So that's the toughest part when dealing with a running quarterback out of the, when it's a designed play.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point about the design run game because your spy doesn't do anything when it's the run game, right? Spy is obviously only in the passing game. And I should save my takes on the Bills run game, I guess, for a little later in this video. So getting ahead of myself, we're going to go back to offense here, though, real quick before we talk some more Bills. And I just wanted to point this play out because, first of all, it's a very rare play in the Mahomes era. I'm sure if as any casual Chiefs fan, you can probably pick out and realize that the Chiefs never run like goal line fades. And I know this isn't a goal line fade, right? It's from the 12-yard line. But the Chiefs never really run these just, quick drop, throw it to the corner of the end zone and let a receiver make a play on it. And I know this is a little different because it's actually more of a slant and go. It's a double move. But the reason I really want to point this play out is because and the clip was only able to go so long or get so far. I'm gonna pause at the very beginning. Mahomes is making pre-snap adjustments. He actually before this, he already went to the line of scrimmage, kind of was acting like he was about to snap it, and then started making more pre-snap adjustments, maybe audible in a little bit. And the last thing he does is he looks at Pringle, gives him a little. Actually, you'd probably be able to see it better from the end zone angle. Gives him a little. I don't know what that signal means, but I am going ahead. I'm gonna come out and guess, and I think it's an inference more than a guess that he changed the play. And this is just Mahomes feeling himself. He's like, you know what? I know Joe Hayden's going to play the slant here. I know that I'm going to be able to get Pringle open on a slant and go. I'm going to just audible to it. I don't think Andy's calling this play. Andy just, what I said at the beginning of this take, Andy doesn't run these goal line fades. He doesn't run these kind of routes. It's just not what he does in the red zone. It's just not. And that's why when you talk about like a red zone weapon or a true X that's like a contested catch guy, it's not as important because Andy just really doesn't utilize that aspect of receiver's game. So that's why I think this is Mahomes feeling himself, being confident. This is at the very end of the first half. They're already up 14-7. Actually, I think they were just tied 7-7. Honestly, I should know whether this was the second or third touchdown. I apologize. But this is just me thinking that Mahomes is just really feeling confident in the offense, really feeling confident in what he's seeing on the field. And that's obviously a great sign going into a big game, as we've talked about. Bryan, I'll go back to you. Just this play or just in general, how you saw Patrick Mahomes in this game, because he was great, right? 5 touchdowns over 400 yards. Just because he didn't start out good doesn't mean he didn't have a great game. Let's just hear your Mahomes takes or just anything you have on this play.
So let's harken back to the idea that this game reminded you of the Texans. He didn't start with a great effort, right? He didn't make the kinds of plays that you want to see him make. Had that batted down interception. And early in the year, that was the kind of play that I felt like caused him to kind of, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but kind of get away from being himself and get away from taking chances. But and here we go. It's playoff time, and it was just like it happened. He flushed it, forgot about it, and it was off and running. 5 touchdowns, 10 or 11 minutes. And I think you're right, Ron. I think that little signal he gives, because that was the thing early in the game. I was saying it out loud, like these Pittsburgh DBs were way too aggressive in the short passing game, and it was just like they were dying to have a ball thrown over their heads. So good on them for actually doing it, and they did it several times as the game went on. But really quick, so one thing, I'm glad you picked this play out because it lets me bring this point up. On a little bit of the negative side, I am 75, 80% sure that I don't think this team can sign Orlando Brown long term. And I didn't think I was going to get there. But and here's the thing, he's going to be a really good player in the right place, like he was with the Ravens, a team that wants to run the football and gap scheme and all those things. But the Chief, Andy Reid, Mahomes, they don't want to play that way, and they're not going to want to play that way, and that's okay. But asking him to drop back, this happens all too often, and I think he's a good player still, but I don't think he's going to be good enough to warrant the contract that it's probably going to cost. And so I'll be interested to hear where you guys stand on that. But that's just something I look at this play like, man, that it was very close to kind of wrecking the play and causing maybe a fumble here. Yeah. And he still took
Yeah, no, Bryan. I was kind of I honestly didn't notice it at first because I was so focused on the routes when I first watched this. But you're right. This is not a good rep by him, Talon. I'm curious your thoughts on this play particularly, but also, you know, Mahomes himself too. But I do want to hear your thoughts on Orlando Brown. What do you do you agree with Bryan? Are you there yet? Are you still wanting to see a little more? Maybe wait for the actual season to end. What are you thinking?
The decision has to be made. It's not going to be made yet. But I agree with Bryan. He's had a long season to show he's capable of really taking the next step of being a pass protector, and he hasn't done it. I think this might be a ceiling. And even looking back at the Week 16 film, this was the matchup, Highsmith and Brown, that we saw most of the game. And Highsmith did the exact same stuff. There's no reason, nothing that Highsmith did in this one should have surprised Brown. And that was, a month or so ago. So I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm kind of with Bryan. Like, he's a good player, but I just don't know if he has a skill set to really thrive in this scheme. He's good enough, or he's been good enough, but at some point that good enough doesn't get you paid. So I think, he might be a tag and trade candidate. I don't know. Maybe front office wants to give him another year. And maybe he'll play on the tag. I don't know, but I am with Bryan. Yeah. I just don't think the fit is there.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys are just being honest, right? Because I think it's really easy for someone who watches the Chiefs to just say, hey, this offensive line as a whole has gotten better, because that's true. It has gotten better throughout the year. But when you guys are right, when you watch the individual play of each lineman, Brown has not really. I thought he was. There was a time it seemed like he was getting, a little better at pass protection. It seemed like he was getting better, just getting depth in his drop and not allowing speed to beat him so bad. But yeah, I mean, Talon, you already mentioned it. Highsmith really was beating him like a drum in Week 16 and this game. Not necessarily every single snap, but enough, right? And you say the word enough, man. This team is trying to win Super Bowls, and this team has star players that take up a lot of their cap. They can't afford to pay a guy if he is just good enough, right? They have to pay a guy, that's really, really worth it, because if he's not really worth it, then they don't have the cap space to waste on a guy that's not. So really good point by you guys. I'm glad we talked about that because I don't think it's something that no one's talking about anymore, because they're winning, right? And the offense hasn't been a problem. So obviously Orlando Brown can't be a problem if the offense hasn't been a problem, right? I'm gonna transition to the Bills piece, but before we move on, I mean, is there any closing thoughts to that conversation? Because I think it's a big one.
I'll jump in. Yeah. So I just want to make sure, again, it's definitely not like, hey, Brown's a bad player. No, he's a good player. Just, it's the same concern I think we all had, like when the trade happened, but also understand this. If you're a Chiefs fan listening, do not just think like, oh, they traded a first-round pick for him. That was part of the deal, but it equivalated out to basically, like, I think it was the 50-something overall pick in that draft. So, yeah, it's a big investment. Worst case, you got a year of serviceable or above average left tackle play, but they have the big decision to make, and they can't get it wrong. So that'd be my closing thought there.
Tom, before we move on, I didn't give you a chance to talk about Mahomes. Is there anything you saw Sunday? Is it just, were you just in awe? Was it just? I mean, we haven't included any of the trick plays. Those were kind of fun, but I don't know. I'm just curious your thoughts on, I guess, the offense. I mean, is this something that we saw coming? Is this something that is this something that's sustainable, I guess, or is it just the Steelers? Because the Steelers really aren't good, even their defense. I mean, I know they started good, but should we be pretty? I mean, are you confident? I'm gonna ask you, Talon. Are you confident in the offense moving forward for sure?
Yeah, I think they've done enough to where if you walk into a game with the Chiefs in this offense and say, I'm not confident, you haven't seen enough Chiefs football. They've struggled this year, but man, from the leadership and these guys they're too experienced to really lay too big of an egg. I think they're going to put up points in the playoffs. I think Andy Reid is too good of a coach to let that happen. If he sees stuff kind of laying out that's leading up to that. He's been around enough to where he knows what a week feels like. That's going, he's going to correct stuff before it gets to that point. And I just think that the Chiefs' offense is too good. So yeah, I think moving forward, the way Mahomes looked, he just looked so comfortable. That was the biggest key. So many times this season, he hasn't looked comfortable. But last week, or I guess just a couple days ago, he looked really comfortable. The decisions were on point, and his passes looked good. He executed well. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with where Mahomes is right now.
What a transition, because the one thing I do want to talk about in terms of, the Chiefs and the Bills played in week 5, and there's so much different about what happened in that game than what we're going to see on Saturday or Sunday. And one of those things is Mahomes' comfortability in the pocket. We all remember how big of a topic that was at the beginning, or towards the middle of the year, right? At the beginning of the year, the offense was not a problem at all, obviously, but it was that middle stretch. And I think this game was kind of that first one that really showed it. Excuse me. And this was a great example. I tweeted this out during that or after that week. And I remember it was popular because people got what I was getting at. And it's just that, we have Demarcus Robinson on, and you'll see my mouse pointing. This is not me doing it right now. So you see Demarcus Robinson running a post corner post, post corner post. And Mahomes just really wants it, right? Especially, it kind of is a cover 2 breaker, right? Because that other safety you'd think maybe widens with that, Kelsey's, out breaking route. So you hope you have that middle of the field. But man, it's not there. It just really isn't, because Mike, I think it's Micah Hyde over closer to the bottom of the screen. He's there, right? If you try that throw, he's gonna be able to make a play on it. But Mahomes just keeps wanting to, right? And I don't think I have the end zone angle of this. No, I don't. But he really just is locked in on that. And I think right now, this is an easy. Mahomes is just boom right away to Tyreek, right at the back of his drop right there. That's just it's automatic. But I think back then he really did not want to accept that teams were able to put a lid on the top of their vertical passing game. I mean, he really didn't want to accept it, and he really wanted to prove them wrong. I think now he's accepted it more, and now this kind of play, it doesn't turn into a sack, or he actually gets hit here, which is never a good thing, obviously. I think Mahomes at this point, he would just be in rhythm right at the back of his drop. As soon as he sees that I think it is Poyer at the bottom of the screen, he's not really following Kelsey, or, he's back there. He's got it. It's not there. I think Mahomes throws a little quicker. Fellas, I don't know what there is to break down about this play, but just do you agree with me that maybe this play, I'll start with you, Talon, that this play, at this point, maybe that it doesn't turn into a sack here. It turns into a quick pass and we're going.
Yeah, 100%. I think the play happens on Sunday. This is a completion out in the flats easily. I think Mahomes has developed a lot over the course of this 2021 season. And when you think about it, even though he's been to so many Super Bowls and so many championship games and all this stuff, he's still a young quarterback. This is, he's still has a lot to see from NFL defenses. And early on in the season, he was just seeing stuff he may not have necessarily respected enough. He may have thought, well, we could beat this, right? But NFL defenses are better than that. They're going to adapt to you. So once they do that, you have to readapt. And he just wasn't ready to do that. Now he's done that, and I think this offense is back to cooking on all cylinders.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. Adapting, right? He didn't want to. I think he really was just like, I'm not gonna let a defense make me adapt. I'm gonna make them adapt to me, which he went about it the wrong way, right? The way to do that is to turn into more, hitting the underneath stuff, being patient, that kind of thing. Bryan, are you with us on that? That Mahomes is kind of just in a different headspace right now, I guess, in terms of how he's playing quarterback.
Yeah, that is why I think my confidence level is really, really high. It's one of the reasons why there's a lot. And I'm not even going to get into oh, well, this person didn't play or that person didn't play. That's not really what I'm focused on. It's more so the season as a whole and how they evolved. And even on the Buffalo side, that game, week 5, I think they kind of emptied the tank a little bit emotionally. They put a lot into that game. They went like 4-4 in their next 8 afterwards, losing to the Jaguars at one point. Like it was their Super Bowl in a lot of ways. And I know they've refocused and I respect them, but like the Kansas City team they played, they had nothing to prove. And they played like they didn't have anything to prove, and they played like they hadn't figured out their identity. And Patrick wasn't, Mahomes, he wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing and does now is in terms of taking those easy chunks of yardage. So I just think it's going to be a lot different, and we'll see. It should be a classic that way, but I'm excited about it because I'm pretty confident. I've made that clear.
Yeah, no, and it's good to be confident, and it's right. I mean, the Chiefs are the AFC's, they are the reigning team, right? I do think one thing that we kind of just don't really talk about enough, or maybe we do, but the Chiefs still haven't lost to any existing AFC Titan. The only in a meaningful game, the only time they've ever lost to a true AFC Titan in a meaningful game was the AFC Championship in 2018 against Brady and the Pats. Brady isn't there anymore, so that doesn't count. In terms of current AFC Titans, the Chiefs are still they still haven't gotten knocked off. And even the game like the Chargers and late in the season, that Monday night or the Thursday night game this year, that's a chance for the Chargers to kind of take over, right? Or kind of, take the Chiefs off the pedestal, and they couldn't do it. And so I do think that factors in. I think there's a mentality that the Chiefs just, I think a team like the Bills, they could maybe get overexcited or overzealous in terms of, they're wanting to get revenge and vengeance from last year. So, and I think that's a thing that happens. So, yeah. But one last thing before we get out of here, fellas, I just wanted to point out how important this aspect of the game is going to be right here. And that's the designed run game for Josh Allen. I mean, honestly, Josh Allen, he's so fun to watch. Like he really is. I enjoy him. He's definitely the type of personality too you can root for. If he wasn't on one of the best teams in the AFC that's, trying to beat us, he'd be a lot more fun to root for and follow. But all that to say, man, the reason he is fun is because he's like a 6'6", 250-pound person that can just run like he's, not Lamar Jackson's speed, but I mean, golly, his athleticism. I mean, he is a young Cam Newton in terms of how he runs. He may even be in some respects a little more wigglier, a little more. He can avoid you in space sometimes. I don't know. Cam Newton was a pretty dang good runner, but he was more of a bruiser sometimes than me. And Allen is a bruiser, obviously, and that's the big part of his game. But I'm rambling now. My main concern, though, is that they're just going to hammer this in this game. I do think they weren't running it as much in the regular season, because why run this a lot in the regular season when the games don't matter as much and you don't need to give Allen those hits? Now the games, this is why you play, right? You don't hold anything back. And so I do think this could be a big part of the game. And you mentioned, Brian, you don't want to, we don't need to say, you're confident without saying, yeah, the Bills or the Chiefs are missing this guy and this guy last time. They didn't have Chris Jones in the lineup. They didn't have Melvin Ingram in the lineup. And Willie Gay was just now getting back. I think he actually did play a little bit this game, but Ben Neiman was still playing the primary snaps as the third linebacker. So, Talon, I'm going to start with you. How big of an impact do you think that is that, that they had a lot of success against us in these quarterback design runs? I mean, you're seeing 2 huge plays, and these were both from just the first drive of last game. How big of an impact will having the guys I mentioned, Chris Jones, Melvin Ingram, and Willie Gay, is it enough to just be able to neutralize that part of the game, or just at least hold it down a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I think especially in this play here, this big Josh Allen run, Melvin Ingram, no disrespect toward Mike Dana. I think he's a great depth player, and I think he's made a lot of plays for the Chiefs, but you can't get locked up like that when you're the edge player by a tight end. And Melvin Ingram isn't getting locked up like that by Dawson Knox or whoever that is. So I think that's going to be a different. I think that the edge is going to be set a little bit differently. So and then that lineman pulling out, getting Dan Sorensen, that's probably going to be a Willie Gay or a Nick Bolton. Anthony Hitchens doesn't do a terrible job here, but who I'm looking at mainly is I think we're going to see a lot different effort from Frank Clark this time around. Because when you look him, you can't tell me that's max effort there. And if he does give max effort, that's tackled, 10 yards earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really disappointed in Frank in that. But anyway, yeah, and Chris Jones is another one that you mentioned. I think he's a guy that's not going to get beaten one-on-one in the trenches. That's another guy. So all of these guys that we're talking about, they're going to have an impact, and they're going to change the way that this play would have looked. It might still be a positive play, but it's not a 15, 20-yard play, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think a guy like Chris Jones on this play, it's even just like if he's in Reed's position, let's say, Reed's the 3-tech, it looks like, the 3-tech. Jones is just blowing him up, right? And that could just take the other polar off his path and then, obviously just disrupt the run in general. But obviously Reed isn't able to have that same explosion. So, and that's how, even if Jones doesn't make the tackle, that's how he can impact that play. Bryan, how are you feeling about the design run game? Is it something that worries you like it? It worries me. It really does. But like Talon said, we got some good players back in it ready to defend it. But how are you feeling about defending Josh Allen in the design run game?
Circling back to earlier when we had a little talk about, do you have a QB spy, or do you just kind of not have that because it is a lot of this stuff where like Allen knows he's probably going to end up running the ball. It's not like, oh, he's patting the ball, nobody's open, he takes off. It's more so this stuff that we're worried about. That's why I don't think Spagnuolo will do so much of the spy stuff. I think more than anything, it's going to be, and these are conversations they've probably already had in the meeting rooms, or they will tomorrow. But like, you're challenging these guys to just win your matchups. Defensive line, you got to get off blocks. You got to win. You got to play with effort. Okay, and they will. I have no doubt about that. Safeties, we're gonna need your help. You're gonna have to fill, and you're gonna have to fill with intent. You got to stick your nose in it. And Juan Thornhill already, showing that he's more than willing to do that. But that's where the difference is going to be made, because just in terms of the numbers game and how many bodies they have to block and how many bodies the Chiefs have to defend this stuff, like it's going to take all hands on deck. It's going to take effort. And, of course, it doesn't hurt when Chris Jones decides to just blow a freaking play up and like, before you know it, he's right in Josh Allen's face and they're set back 4 yards. And that kind of stuff that could happen and really set their offense back. So it will be different, I think, but I don't look for the spy stuff to happen a whole lot. I guess that would be my point overall. They're just going to challenge these guys, man up and out execute them.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's exactly right. I agree with the spy thing, because the other part of this is the pass rush is playing well enough, you'd hope, at least in this game too, that you need to just have 4 guys rushing and trust your 7 guys in coverage to make Allen, try to fit a throw through a tight window, right? Or try to, force something. I don't want to see Spags blitz. That's how we'll end this show. We'll wrap it up here, but that's the one adjustment I really want to see Spags really buy into. It seems like even if his blitz rate is lower, he still will just blitz at these times where it's like, I get it. It's your thing and it works. It does work, right? It works sometimes, or, a lot of the time. It really does, especially against quarterbacks that are, not as well equipped maybe to defend the blitz. A guy like Ben Roethlisberger. Josh Allen is he's just not a guy I really want to see them blitz a lot. I'd rather them just trust their rushers to do their thing. And then trust them in coverage. Trust your 7 guys in coverage, because, Allen's going to give you an opportunity to make a turnover. I mean, he maybe not against the Patriots when they played literally the most impressive offensive performance of all time. But you can't expect that to happen again. And Allen's susceptible to that, just like Mahomes is at times. These elite quarterbacks with this arm talent, they're going to trust their arm a little too much at times. And so that's why I really want the Chiefs and Spags to really force Allen to trust his arm over and over, just like teams try to force Mahomes to trust his arm, or just go underneath and trust his reads and trust, have to go through everything rather than just get a big play to cap off a drive. So I'm off my soapbox. We're wrapping it up here. Real quick, guys, I'll let you get one final thing in and to say, let's get a prediction. Let's get a real quick prediction, guys. I'm going to put you on the spot. It's Tuesday night. It's early in the week. Talon, what is your prediction for this game?
That's tough. I do think it's going to be a shootout, but I don't think the Bills will provide as much of a challenge as people are expecting. This is still a really good Chiefs team. So let's not forget how good these Chiefs have been. So I'm going to say Chiefs win this one 35-31.
I love it. Brian, where are we at in this game?
Yeah, I'm right in line with, I think, Talon's thoughts there. I think this game's going to – let me just play the odds. Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs playoff games, a lot of them have looked similar. Starts out a little rocky. Maybe, whether they're down or they're just in a battle, I think that'll be the case. But as the game wears on, second, third quarter, I think the talent they have and just the determination, this team, they still got a sour taste in their mouth from what happened in Tampa last year. And they've been waiting for this game. The regular season just has not been – I mean, they're human. It hasn't been that important to them. I guarantee it. They just want to get here, and they're going to show the world that this is what they've been waiting for. So I've got 33-23 Chiefs right now.
Ooh, 10-point win. I love it. I love the confidence, and you guys are right. I mean, this team, like I said, it's the AFC top team, top tier. No one's been able to match them in the Mahomes era, and I, as much as I do think I want to give the Bills a ton of credit, I do think they're a really good team, and I've been hyping them up. A lot of you listening maybe have been the ones getting me on Twitter for giving the Bills too much credit, but I got the Chiefs winning this one, man. The Bills. The one thing about the 2019 Chiefs is they were at home the whole time, right? And that's one thing that's really important in the playoffs. And no matter how good you are, sometimes when you don't get that home game, that's the difference, right? And so I'm going to give the Chiefs a 33-29 victory. I love doing some fancy numbers. I guess you said 33 too, Brian. But fellas, we're going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys watching, everybody. Please keep watching. Listen to the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network. And get ready for the Chiefs-Bills game. We're going to have tons of content coming out. These guys are going to have great film reviews out. I'm going to have one as well. And then we'll get ready for Buffalo. And see you guys next week and with hopefully recapping another playoff win. All right. Thanks, guys.